On January 28, 2026, a Learjet aircraft, call sign VTSSK, took off from Mumbai, headed for Baramati, but it never landed. The crash claimed 5 lives and left behind a trail of unanswered questions. Now, for the very first time, the government's preliminary investigation report is public. So let's dive in, decode this report, and see what the facts really tell us.
What you're looking at here is the first official document on the crash from the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, or the AAIB. And its purpose, as the report makes very clear, is not to assign blame. Its sole objective is to learn from accidents like this one to make sure they never happen again. So let's lay out the facts as they're presented.
So this is the biggest question of all, isn't it? What exactly happened that morning? You had a modern jet, a highly experienced crew, and a destination they had flown to before. So why did it end in such a horrific tragedy? The answers, hopefully, are hidden inside this report.
Let's start with the basic, undisputed facts of the accident, which are laid out right on the first page of the report. According to the report, on January 28, 2026, at 8:46 in the morning, the Learjet 45XR, registration VTSSK, crashed during its landing phase at Baramati. The accident was catastrophic. Both pilots, a cabin attendant, and 2 passengers, all 5 people on board, lost their lives.
All right, now let's look at 3 essential elements: the aircraft itself, the experience of the crew, and the purpose of this particular journey. These details are key to understanding the full picture.
Okay, let's dive into this because this is really important. The pilot in command, the captain, was 61 years old. He held an airline transport pilot license, which is the highest level of pilot certification you can get, and his experience, a staggering 18,855 flying hours. The first officer was 25 with a commercial pilot license and nearly 2,500 hours of experience. To be clear, these were not rookies. This was an incredibly experienced pair.
This was a non-scheduled VIP flight carrying the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra. And the report also makes it clear that both pilots had flown into Baramati before. This airfield wasn't new or unfamiliar to them.
Now we come to the destination itself, Baramati Airfield. As you'll see, this place is a huge piece of the puzzle.
So, Baramati is what's known as an uncontrolled airfield. In simple terms, that means it doesn't have the kind of air traffic control tower, radar, or advanced landing systems you'd find at a major airport. The report says that communication there was often handled by flying school students or instructors on a simple handheld radio. Just think about that for a second.
Now, just look at this picture. This shows you the condition of the runway at Baramati. The report states that the last time any recarpeting work was done on it was back in 2016. The result? The runway markings had almost completely faded away, and the surface was covered in loose gravel.
And the shortcomings didn't end there. The report gives us a whole list. No modern navigational aids like an ILS, no dedicated in-house firefighting unit for the airport. For one of the runways, runway 11, there wasn't even a windsock to show the wind direction. The boundary fencing was incomplete, and one end of the runway is a tabletop, which means it ends with a steep drop. So, with all that in mind, how is visibility measured at an airfield like this? With this, a hand-drawn chart. This chart has local landmarks like buildings and water tanks drawn on it, and somebody would basically look out and guess how far they could see based on which landmarks were visible. There was no modern meteorological equipment.
We're now arriving at the most critical part of the report, the flight's final few minutes. This is where an experienced crew came face to face with poor visibility and a poorly equipped airfield, all at the same time.
Okay, this is a little technical, but it's absolutely crucial. To land under visual flight rules, or VFR, which is basically when the pilot is landing by sight, you need a minimum visibility of 5,000 meters. But when the pilots of VTSSK asked for the visibility, they were told it was only 3,000 meters. That is significantly below the minimum required. And the satellite imagery included in the report confirms this. It states clearly that there was very shallow fog in patches over the Baramati area. The weather was simply not suitable for a visual landing. So, using their experience, the pilots made their first attempt to land. But the data from the flight data recorder shows that when they couldn't see the runway, they made the correct and professional decision not to land. In aviation, this is called a go-around. This image shows their flight path on that first attempt and then climbing away.
At 8:36 that morning, the pilot clearly communicated over the radio, going around VSK. It was a textbook call. The crew understood the situation and aborted their first attempt. But then, a second attempt began. Just 7 minutes after the go-around, at 8:43, the pilot's voice came over the radio again. "Field in sight VSK." He could see the airfield. The tower responded, "Cleared to land."
Exactly 14 seconds after receiving that landing clearance, at 8:44, the final transmission from the cockpit was recorded. It was just 2 words: "Oh shit. Oh shit." After that, radio silence.
So, what clues did the investigation team find at the crash site? Let's see what the report says.
According to the report, the plane hit the ground about 50 meters to the left of the runway. But just before that ground impact, it had struck several trees. A post-impact fire broke out, which completely destroyed the aircraft.
Every aircraft has 2 black boxes. The data from the flight data recorder, which tracks things like speed and altitude, was successfully downloaded. But the other one, the cockpit voice recorder, which records the pilot's conversation, was damaged in the fire. Its analysis is still pending. The secret of what actually happened in those final 14 seconds is still locked inside that recorder.
It's really important to stress this one more time. This is a preliminary report. Its goal, as it states, isn't to point fingers, but to learn lessons that can prevent future accidents. The full, complete picture will only emerge once the final report is released.
But even at this early stage, this report raises a very serious question. On one hand, you have VIP travel, which has its own pressures and demands. And on the other, you have small airfields like Baramati, which are clearly lacking in basic infrastructure and safety systems. So the question we're left with is this: is it time to take a much harder look at the safety standards of smaller airfields used for VIP flights? That's a question the aviation industry and its regulators will now have to answer.